Alright, UFC Fight Night 88 just happened, and I'm just gonna basically go through a breakdown of all the fights, what happened, and my general thoughts on how terrible this card was, because this fight card, I believe, was actually one of the worst cards we've had in a long time. And I'm a recent MMA fan, I'll be honest. I've only been watching for probably a year and a half, maybe two consistently, but I've watched a lot of like previous fights in the previous years. So just getting right into it. We had Charlampos Gregorio versus Allen. Yeah, Chad, basically. Giga Chad himself. Um, it was a little bit of a closer fight than I think everyone was giving to Charlampos. But yeah, Chad actually showed there's levels to the UFC, which is surprising because Allen, yeah, Chad is he's Canadian. And you don't see often when Canadians show levels in UFC, you know. So I'm actually really happy that Chad won that fight. I am Canadian, so I was rooting for him a little bit, but you know, I was keeping my expectations low. We all know what happened on UFC what was that, 296? Yeah, dark times. But anyways, yeah, it was a really good showing from Chad. I think he rocked Griag Charlampos. He rocked Charlampos a few times. And I believe the commentary was constantly talking about how Charlampos was like a karate style person. But Chad actually looked like the karate style, so I don't know if I misheard them or commentary was higher than a kite, but I don't know. I mean, I thought Chad actually looked really, really good. How old is Chad? I don't think Chad is like too young, right? Like I'm not crazy. Monster's um a little weird. 37. Wow. That is I thought he might have been 35. 37's crazy. Jesus. But yeah, he showed there was levels to the fight game in the UFC. So I'm really happy with the way that fight went. It was actually a really good opener to the card. Like it was probably top three fights on the card, which is like crazy thinking about because this guy's 8-4, 13-7, 37 years old. You don't really think about that too much. Canadian as well, you know. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm happy for Chad. And it was a good performance. I don't think Chad deserves like a ranked opponent or anything by any means, but you know, maybe get him on like another prelim for like a Brazilian on the 301 card or something. Make it like a fun fight. And then we have Thiago Moises versus Mitch Ramirez. I personally don't like Thiago Moises. I think he's overrated. I do know that he's like really young, like he's 28, 27. Um, I just don't like watching any of his fights. I just don't think I think he's like medium in all of his skills. He's not like good at anything. And especially not striking. Like I think his striking is low. I think his grappling is medium, and I think his like chin and like strength overall is just like medium. But he actually he showed up this fight, and it was a really good first round. I believe he got the back take in the first 3 minutes, and he held on to his back for 3 minutes, or it might have been four after Mitch Ramirez got a little too overzealous with his striking. Mitch Ramirez just sucks. I mean, he showed up at short notice. It is what it is. UFC debut. You know, maybe he thought he couldn't get an easier opponent, or maybe he thought this opponent would skyrocket him. But Thiago Moises fucked up the leg of Ramirez in round one pretty bad, and then round two he really poured it on him, and it actually did. Like I watch MMA Guru a lot while I'm watching these fights because the commentary is horrendous. And yeah, I mean MMA Guru just described it perfectly. It literally looked like a bully beating up a guy for his lunch money. Like I mean, that's pretty much how it went, you know. It was another just like there's levels to the UFC, you know. I do think that Thiago Moises shouldn't be this low on the card considering how bad this card is. Also, he called out Dan Hooker. No. Like just no. I know he's fought really good opponents and he's fought like the upper echelon of like Islam Makhachev and stuff like that. You're not getting Dan Hooker. You'll probably get Bobby Green off a loss because I think he's already beat Bobby Green, so they could run it back so he gets ranked, or maybe a Drew Dober, something like that. Let me just check real quick the UFC rankings. So I'm not crazy, right? Bobby Green's like 14 and Drew should be like 15, right? Yeah, exactly. Drew's 15. Maybe even like Matt Frivola. Actually, I think has he fought? I think he's fought Matt Frivola, no? Um, he lost to Benoit, I remember that. Christian Giagos, Hernandez, Joel Alvarez. He beat Michael Johnson. Yeah, he's beat like good opponents, and he's still young. I think give him like a Matt Frivola. I think that'll be a fun fight. Matt's a pretty decent wrestler and pretty strong in his hands, so I don't think Thiago's gonna want to strike too long. I think that'd be a good fight. Probably steamroller for Vola. And then yeah, I thought it was a good fight. First two fights, pretty good. Not too bad. It showed levels to the UFC. It made the UFC look good. And then we had Jacqueline versus Corey. Corey just looked like she didn't know what she was doing at all. Like, I know she's coming off a layoff. She looked like she was coming off a layoff. She just looked like shit. Like, she looked like a 40-year-old woman trying to throw kicks. Like, I don't know if you guys. Man, when I saw this fight, it literally looked like Corey McKenna's first time throwing anything. Like, it just looked like she didn't know how to throw anything at all. Um, Wow. Yeah, I forgot it lasted only. I forgot it was a finish in the first round. Yeah, it was just like she was throwing kicks like an amateur. She was throwing jabs and crosses like she's never thrown before. She was blinking after every strike. Like it just looked bad, you know? And Jacqueline Amorim gets it done by submission. I want to point out that this is where it started for the whole card to be dog shit. And what I mean by that is that Jacqueline Amorim at like 1 minute 13 or something had a perfect arm triangle uh and was about to get the what's it called? An arm bar, and the ref literally looks at them and yells at them, "Stop, stop, stop." And then she let goes and he's like, "Continue." What are you doing? You literally just called the fight. Like if a ref screams and yells stop, that's when the fight ends. She wins by submission. Done. Like what? And then the fact that Corey McKenna went right back into that submission, I think just shows that Jacqueline Amorim actually might be something in the women's strawweight division. I know I really don't care about women's MMA at all. But I think Jacqueline Amorim actually will like do well in the UFC. If Corey McKenna is, the I don't want to say peak of strawweight, but she's like the contenders in strawweight basically. Jacqueline's just gonna run through them all. Just like get yourself back into the same armbar is crazy to me. And then moving up, we had Danny Silva, Josh Cooleybow. I think some people might have seen this as a robbery. I didn't. I just think Danny Silva he's one of those fighters that will non-stop come at you, and I think there was moments where Josh Cooleybow was like, "Oh shit, I'm fucked." Like he definitely looked like he's like, "There's no way I'm putting this guy away." He kept on throwing like crazy like uppercuts, fucking head kicks. He was doing really really well visually, but I think the main issue is that Koulibaly's whole style is like heavily like offensive while he's on the back foot, and Danny Silva literally just walked them down. It was almost like watching like an Edson Barbosa versus Sadiq Youssef um, after round one, where both fighters are just constantly slugging it out, but it's clear that Danny Silva is just like walking you down and you can't do anything about it. Like it was a good fight. I think Danny Silva barely edged it. I do think he needs to do more. Like if he wants to get ranked and everything for featherweight especially, you just need to do more. Cause I'm noticing a lot of these guys who come to the UFC now, a lot of these wrestlers, they'll shoot for a takedown and everything, and they'll just hug the legs there. But like that is such a 50-50 mindset to have where you're just holding a guy against the cage and hoping you're scoring points. Sometimes the judges score it and sometimes they don't. They're so like wishy-washy with like control time, especially when you hug against the cage. Personally, me, I don't think it should count towards anything. Because you're literally just putting your body weight against someone, and that should mean nothing. But that's my personal take. However, hey, he got it done. It worked. I thought it was a pretty good performance. I believe this was a debut. I could be wrong. I think it was a debut. So it was a good performance. Danny Silva did really, really well. Rafael Filho versus Ode Osborne. Now, I'll be honest, this is the one fight I was AFK for. I actually didn't watch this fight. I will say before the fight started, they were talking about Ode Osborne grappling with high school kids, and he's like doing this donation fund and all this other stuff for like youth fighters and stuff like that. I did not think Ode Osborne is like he's like what's his name? Kennedy Nizinchukwu, in my opinion. He's just very inconsistent. He's a little overrated, especially now. And man, to get submitted in round one, like I didn't watch it, but it clearly seems that like Rafael Filho did better. But hey, I didn't watch it. Maybe something else happened. Maybe Ode dropped him or something crazy. Don't know. And don't care, I'll be honest, because these guys both I don't really care for. Uh, Jose Nunez versus Chelsea Chandler. This was just a shit women's fight. Um, and like this is what I mean. Right after this fight, we had a banger, and then it was just shit. Well, I don't know if it was shit, but early submission is kind of like a little boring. And then we had a shit women's fight, and then we had and then this. But yeah, we had Chelsea Chandler basically eating punches to the face the whole time, and just landed more. That was pretty much it. I think some people also thought this one might have been a little closer. I just think Chelsea Chandler won every round. Like, I mean, she was just beating Nunez up the whole time. Like, she landed more, and yeah, she was like bleeding in the nose, but like that was pretty much it. I do think she was unjustified and like being cocky in the final bit where she was like waving her head, like pointing and trying to egg on the fight. It's just it's a shit performance. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna sit there and mock your opponent, you need to be like either Cody Garbrandt style matrix dodging all of their moves, or you have to have dropped them like 15 times. Not 15, but at least once in that round and been like, oh, you were about to get put out, basically. It was just terrible. Well, it's just a women's fight, man. And these are, I think it was what 14th and 13th or 14th and 15th. Like, oh, oh well. And then we had Mike Davis versus Natan Levy. Um, this was just basically a back take after potentially dropping Natan Levy. Actually, when I first watched it, I thought he got dropped real bad. When I kind of saw it in the replay, I just thought, I think he just dove for legs. A lot of these wrestlers now, they just kind of like dive for leg and then they hold on to the leg. Makayev dives for a leg, and every time you see them dive for a leg, it looks like they're just getting knocked out. So sucks for Natan Levy. Mike Davis gets it done. Now because I'm newer, this is probably the first time I've seen Mike Davis. I'd like to see him more. He seems really, really good and really, really high level. Um, but it's clear he's like a part-time fighter. He said it in his interview, saying in the build-up, he just doesn't like fighting. Like, he's just good at it, and it shows that just like talent can just win fights. And Mike Davis is just pure talent. I think his last loss was to who? Like Gilbert Burns. at lightweight, wasn't it? Something like that. Beast Boy is also pretty sick. Yeah, Gilbert Burns. Okay. Gilbert Burns, and then Sadiq Yusuf. Like Sadiq's pretty good, but Gilbert Burns, yeah. I mean, it is what it is, you know. But since then, he's been on a tear. Yeah, he's got four. He was bragging about his four winning streaks and the hardest division. Sure, but the issue is that you have 4 wins in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like you're not active. You know, so let's not get too cocky. You know, but yeah, let's not get too cocky here. I don't know what the fuck that ad was. But he's good. You know, he should fight more. It wasn't like a terrible. It was just kind of like a boring fight because it wasn't really a fight. It was basically Mike Davis took the back, and it was just a matter of time before Natan Levy tapped in round one and then also in round two. So that's why it was just like kind of boring. So far it was a showing of the UFC, a showing of the UFC, and then we had a really shit call by the ref. I mean, it was the same result, but still, like, I don't know how that ref was even paid that night. It's crazy. And then it was a good fight. Can't really say, but I'm gonna assume it wasn't that great. Just based off the names, I'll be honest. And then Nunes, Chelsea Chandler, shit. Natan Levy, Mike Davis, a little boring. Let's just be honest. You know. And then we had the opener of the main card. I really wanted Bryan Barbereno to win. And they both look like shit. Gerald Meerschaert looks so old in there, you know. Some people said he got dropped pretty bad. I don't think he actually got dropped. I think he just lost balance. You know, I don't know. It's hard to tell. GM3 doesn't normally have a crazy chin, but yeah, I mean, Bryan Barberena just can't do anything if you take him down. He was showing pretty good takedown defense, and he was not out grappling, but he had some good scrambles in moments. But he's just like, man, Bam Bams just seem to always get fucking taken down and submitted, and we'll get to the other Bam Bam. But Bryan Barberena probably gonna get cut. 18-12 is a terrible record, and this is 4 fights he's lost in a row. I think it's fair to cut him. I actually do like Bryan Barberena, but it is what it is. Not really a great fight either. It was just like sloppy striking. It just looked like shit. Like it looked like two. It looked like when your friend invites you over to watch fights and have a beer, gets angry, and you guys get into a fight. You know what I mean? Like it didn't look that. It just looked like shit. And then you had Penny Kanza versus Macy Chasson. Yeah, I mean, this is just another like boring fight where Macy Chiasson got the submission against Piani, and Piani. This one I wasn't really paying attention too much to, but it was just like boring, like a lot of the times when I say I'm not paying attention, I have it like on the side of my eye and I see some of it, but I'm not really, paying that much attention until something big happens on commentary or MMA Guru screams or something. But this was just it was a shit low level fight again in, women's bantamweight. Oh, it was just, oh man, stinker, stinker. And then we had Christian Rodriguez versus Isaac Bulgarian. I'm gonna be honest. I think Christian Rodriguez won pretty fairly. Um, and going into this, I don't like Christian Rodriguez at all. I do think he's a white bully, and I do think he's not a great fighter. He's like a Neil Magny in that he's basically shit until the third round. And I thought round one, Isaac Bulgarian was sick. He was doing some crazy submissions. He was really trying to get the finish. Just couldn't. And then Christian Rodriguez in round two, I thought I thought Christian Rodriguez in round two clearly won it. Just because Isaac was just hugging him. And this is what I mean. This is what I mean. 50-50 judges. Like, Isaac Dolgarian literally held him against the cage for like 3 minutes in round two. But sometimes they just don't score that. And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but they just don't. You know? Um, so it is what it is. It's kind of crazy how Isaac got two submission attempts and Christian got none. Because in the third round, Christian, like, to be fair, Isaac Dolgarian should have got a 10-8 in round one. Christian should have won round two. And then Christian should have got a 10-8 in round three. That's how I personally see the fight. If you want to say Isaac Dolgarian won, that's fine. I'm not, like, gonna argue with you. But I just don't think, man, he gassed out really, really badly, you know? And I know that's, if you ask anyone, oh, if there's a round four, Isaac loses. But this is a 3-round fight. That's what he planned for. It's completely different. I get that. But in round three, he did look like shit. Like, if that was a 10-7 round, I wouldn't even be that against it, you know? And I know Isaac was, like, landing shots in round three. They were, they looked like they were hurting him more than they were hurting Christian Rodriguez, you know? So, it's just a bad look by both fighters. Christian just waited till the third round to do anything. And then Isaac just gassed out in round two. So, kind of sucks. Is what it is. It's just like, it's just a mid-fight, I guess, after round one. This is one of the worst fights I've ever seen of all time. Um, I can't believe this was like a fight the UFC was giving to Kennedy to, like, be like, hey, we know you might have had a little bit of a rough go at UFC. Here's a free win. Get a knockout. Get people talking about your name again. This says attempted 250 strikes and landed 106 strikes. I think I counted like 15 strikes each round, maybe, at most. And with his reach is insane. Like, when you see Kennedy fight, this guy looks like, he, number one, looks like a young Chris Curtis. But he also looks like he has the longest reach in MMA history. Like, it's crazy to me. And Ovince St. Peru, again, recent MMA fan. Sure, I haven't watched his entire career, but he's 40 years old, man. When you see this guy fight, he's literally like hammer fisting to parry. The guy can't even make a fucking proper cup in his hand. That's how old he is, man. I can't believe Kennedy, number one, couldn't get the knockout. Because there were so many times where it's just like, just throw the same thing you did and you'll knock him out. And Kennedy would throw a jab and then just back off and not do anything. This is like watching the shittier version of Jack Hermanson versus Joe Pyfer. Like, it was so bad. It's like, bro, just knock him out already. Like, he's on stilts. Stop throwing one, like, oh, a jab. Okay. Wait, get hit, get hit, get hit, get hit. Hook. All right. Get hit, get hit, get hit. Like, bro, just do something, man. That's all you need to do. Just make it look like you're winning at least. It's insane. And I think, like, and then Ovince is just going to be around now. Fuck, man. And this is light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Like, knock him out. Like, light heavyweight, I think, is the bridge in the whole, like, most fights are going to be decisions unless there's a crazy power involvement or whatever. Light heavyweight and heavyweight fights should almost always end in a finish. That's like, light heavyweight is the high technical finishing, like, crazy knockouts, and I think heavyweights are just like big dudes butting heads until one of them gets knocked out, you know? Just fuck, man. It was so painful to watch. And then we have Bryan Battle against Ange Lusa. Now, I will say, this is another instance where the ref is brain damaged, and I really hope they go see a doctor. Ange Lusa clearly shoots a takedown, well, he fakes a takedown or fails it. Bryan Battle gets ready to get him in the clinch. You can see him trying to get his elbows ready. You can see him trying to get the hands behind the head. And his thumb, yes, accidentally eye pokes him. He can't see where his thumb is and where his eye is and all that stuff. So it is a hard call to make. Um, for like the intent of the eye poke. I personally don't think he intended the eye poke at all, and I don't think anyone should. It was just like an accident. Accidents happen. But the fact that Angelusa sat there for four, number one, this ref literally sat there and looked at him and was like, and this is the cool ref. This is the guy with the fancy beard. He literally sat there and he's like, listen, take all the time you need, and you know, if you can't continue, let me know and I'll stop the fight. Why are you telling a fighter this? You literally gave him a get out of jail free card. Also, very, very important to note, even though these strikes are close, Bryan Battle was winning 100% every judge's scorecard and in everyone's brain. No one was watching round one and being like, well, Angelusa did have. No, Angelusa was getting rocked. He's never been finished, too, which is kind of like, whoa, okay. And then on top of that, he was being outstruck. He was just showed that like Bryan Battle was improving a shit ton more than his previous fights. Like Bryan Battle is looking so fucking good. This is like what you want Joe Pyfer to look. This was like when Joe Pyfer fought Abdul, the fucking Niger or no, sorry, whoa, Jamaican fighter. I can't Abdul something something something. When he when fucking what's when Joe Pyfer fought Abdul whatever his name, that was like what Bryan Battle was doing to Angelusa. It's like he was just fucking him up, and Bryan Battle looked so good. And then round two, failed takedown, accidental eye poke. He gets 5 minutes to rest, and then he just says he can't see while he's looking at the fucking doctor. What a bitch move. Like, oh my god, I literally want to strangle Angelusa after seeing that. Angelusa more like Angeluser. Get him out. He's terrible. It's like, oh man, I don't even dislike Angelusa. I liked his previous fight against, I can't even remember the name, but Bryan Battle should have got the one that should have went to the scorecards, number one. Number two, it should have been labeled as a TKO because Angelusa literally quit. It was an unintentional eye post. Or I guess give it a no contest. But I will say this: I think this is best case scenario for Bryan. Not best. Best would have been a knockout, but this is one of the better situations for Bryan Battle because Bryan Battle literally Angelusa was like walking up to him as they were about to announce, or after they announced it was a no contest. Angelusa was like, what can you do? And Bryan Battle was just like, no, fuck you. Yeah. Like he went off on Angelusa, and it looked like there was about to be a round three inside that octagon. It was actually sick from Bryan Battle. I'm tired of like watching a fighter get robbed and the fighter being like, "Oh, better save face, better be professional about this." No, Bryan Battle went in and was just like, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to get like fucking taken off YouTube or anything, but he went crazy in on Angelusa with the insults. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend trying to find a clip about it. You'll probably find it in YouTube Shorts somewhere. It was sick. I highly, highly respect. I like Bryan Battle going in because I'm a bigger guy trying to lose weight. He's a former fat man, lost weight, is in the UFC. Man, he was just a savage with the insults. And then I think from the interview actually, um Angelusa's brother or family member was like talking shit to him as Bryan Battle was walking away. So he literally stopped. He looked at his brother and was just like, "Yeah, I'd fuck you up too," you know. And like, it just looked like, man, ah, I really wanted to see round three or at least the continuation of round two. Uh, Bryan Battle called out Neil Magny right after. I think that's a great call out, actually. Fuck Angelusa. I don't think Angelusa will actually sign the fight again. He definitely was losing, and he definitely took the coward's way out. There's no way he couldn't see, you know? Um, He was looking around just fine. He looked at the doctor just fine. He looked at the ref just fine. He was fine, you know. And I know I'm not a fighter, and I haven't. Well, I've done training. I will say that, and I've been eye poked before. It is not nearly, even an intentional eye poke. It sucks, but 5 minutes is more than enough time for you to recover from that and continue the fight. And if you can't see, not as in like there is no vision in that eye, but you're still like oh man, that stings. Continue the fight. Your eye stings. You know what I mean? Like fighters have had broken or fractured bones and they'll still continue. You know what I mean? It's the same fucking thing. Just your eyeball is like finicky. If you're in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, just continue the fight, you know? And whatever happens, happens. If you lose because that's just not your night, that's not your night. But to lose like this, Ons Lusa is like he's shoved way down. This was like the only redeeming thing of the main card too. All these fights were like terribly decided. The ref stepped in for some stupid fucking reason or a terrible, terrible display. I'd like to point out Kennedy Nzechukwu was like a -7, like a 7-1 favorite, and he did that as his performance. Terrible, absolutely terrible. But anyways, getting back to this fight, I did like the fight. Sucks that it was an no contest. Highly respect for Bryan Battle. I hope Bryan Battle actually goes on to do great things because he's looking really, really fucking good for welterweight. But yeah, moving on to the main event. One of the most depressing fights I've ever had to watch. Tai Tuivasa gets taken down near the end of the round, and he has to deal with avoiding a submission for 2 minutes. I will say Tai Tuivasa looked good on the feet. Of course, that's what Tai does. Tybora's fought nobody, so if you pick Tybora in this matchup, you have like no reason to pick Tybora in this matchup other than Ty's on a skid. That's it. That would be your only reasoning. Tybora actually hasn't beat anyone noteworthy in the division at all. Not a single decent name, you know. And we can even look at the rankings here. He hasn't beat a single ranked opponent. He's lost to Marcos before, I believe. He's lost to literally everybody. I think he lost to it was either Romanov or it was what was it? He loses or he wins to Ivanov, Blagoy. He loses to Aspinall, beats Romanov. Romanov sucks. He's just a shit, fat, obese man now. He loses to Volkov. That's who I was thinking of. Um, he's terrible. Like, he doesn't have a single good win on any name. So, there's no reason to pick. Like, if you say you picked Marcin Tybura, that's bullshit. You probably just put money on an underdog in a main event. That's it. Um, and Tai Tuivasa can't defend anything on a takedown. On his birthday, he's about to get cut from the UFC. Sucks to see. Tai Tuivasa's got way more personality, way more fun to watch, way more relatable as a person. Better interviews. Marcin Tybura sounds like a woman. Like I can't believe she lost. And for Tai Tuivasa, this is really, really, really bad as a fighter. Because he loses to Cyril Gahn, sure. He loses to Sergey Pavlovich, sure. He loses to Volkov. Volkov was actually pretty underrated. I was actually thinking Volkov was going to beat him when a lot of people said Ty was going to win this fight. But he loses to really good people. Volkov was below him at the time. And then Tai Tuivasa gets basically a layup in Tybura. Like, Tybura has no chin. He's a fat 40-year-old heavyweight. Hi, man. Why couldn't you get it done? You know, UFC has pretty big highs, like with the fights on 299. But man, do they have fucking lows with these fight nights. And these next fight nights are all shit. Um, Oh my god. And then Aaron Blanchfield and oh my god. Chris Weidman. Oh my god. Shitty. Oh my god. Loopy. Oh my. Anyways. Anyways. There's another. Anyways. UFC 300 looks really good. Can't wait for that card. But it looks like we're just gonna have to deal with 3 shitty weeks as MMA fans. It is what it is. This card was one of the worst cards I think in recent history by far. The best fight on the card. Wow, actually all the main event fights sucked ass. I think the best fight on this card is actually best fight on this card might actually be Thiago and Chad and Silva. Yeah. And the rest of them are shit. All of them. But anyways, here's my video on the breakdowns, my personal opinions, and what went down on UFC 88, Fight Night 88. One of the worst cards in recent history. And that's all I got for you guys.